Hello everyone and welcome to a video here on my YouTube channel. Today is going to be a bit different. So a little while back I traveled to Eternal Week in Prague, I had a fun time, but at the tournament after a few beers, talked to Sahar, British Magic player, and I asked if I could challenge her and her partner in crime over at the Legacy Gambit here on YouTube to some kind of match in within the Legacy format, and we decided on playing a 3-match series, and we kind of talked about the details a bit, and we agreed that we would each bring 3 decks, and we would tell each other the archetypes, but not the specific lists. So with that in mind, I wanted to play something spicy. So I settled on this blue-black Yorion deck as my first deck. I actually randomly decided this is my deck A for the tournament. I don't know what their deck A is, so I'll have a 1 in 3 chance to guess their deck. Their lineup consists of Boris Initiative, Cloudpost, and the last deck being Dimir Death's Shadow. So should be some great games. Yeah, so let's get to the deck. This is basically just 80 card normal Dimir, but with the twist of Entomb plus a couple of fatties. Those fatties being Atraxa, and those fatties being Archon of Cruelty. So with these two haymakers, you have the ability to go over the top, which is hopefully what's going to happen here today. And to back that up, aside from the normal quad reanimate package, I have 3 animate dead, so a bit more ways to cheat a fatty into play, or, you know, just a troll or a grief, just like normal. So aside from that package, I think this deck is pretty stock. You got your, I guess Thoughtseize isn't that stock, but it makes sense when you go for a bigger deck, you need more disruption to begin with, and I mean, Thoughtseize is just great, especially in combination with grief, tearing apart your opponent's hand, etc. We have the usual suspects of cantrips, removal spells, a little bit of Brazen Borrower thrown in the mix, and of course the Bowmasters. Sideboard-wise, I'm pretty straightforward. I have some Graveyard Hate and also Dowdy Voidwalker. That card can come in against a lot of strategies, actually. Also to circumvent stuff like Leyline of the Void or your opponent going like overboard on Yard Hate. Couple of Force Negations so you don't lose the fast combo. Brazen Borrower for more cards to deal with problematic things like Merit Lage. A couple of removal spells for Murktide Region specifically that I like. And then the Yorion, it's not the best Yorion deck, but it can help out in a longer game, giving you an extra blue card for Force of Will, giving you some stuff to do in a longer game where you have a lot of mana. Yeah, that's it for the first deck. Second deck here is even more spice. It's Grixis Phoenix. Grixis Phoenix with Delver and Channeler. So basically it's 4 Dark Ritual, 4 Bird Life, 4 Arclight Phoenix, 4 Thoughtseize, I guess, jammed into a normal-looking Delver deck. So we're looking to cheat Arclight Phoenix into play from the graveyard. You can either mill it over with Dragonrage Channeler or Bird Alive 3 copies to the graveyard. Bird Alive gets to 3 Phoenixes, it's cast off of Dark Ritual, and from there you only need to cast 1 more spell. So ideally you start with Thoughtseize on the opponent. You can Lightning Bolt one of the creatures, you can cast a cantrip. Anyway, you slice it, if you've cast 3 instants or sorceries during your first main phase, then you get back all the Arclight Phoenixes. So I'm hoping for some combo-ish finishes. I'm hoping to keep my opponent off guard in sideboarding. And yeah, just looking for some for some cool games with the Firebird. This sideboard is a bit all over the place, but it does have Third Path Iconoclast. I like this as my card against non-Bowmaster decks, where it's like my plan B. They have a lot of Yard Hate. I board into this card, and then all of a sudden I'm just a normal tempo deck. Some Surgicals to not lose to stupid stuff. Same with the Force Negation. A couple of Pyroblasts to upgrade the blue matchups, and then I have a lot of one-offs. So Duress, good against combo, good against Surgical. Fatal Push kills initiative creatures, Death Shadows. Tarmogoyfs, if that's the thing, Delver, Dragonrage Channeler. Brazen Borrow is a catch-all, and then Stern Dismissal as a pretty targeted card against Leyline of the Void and Merit Lage combined. I really like the just one blue. It's pretty efficient with Phoenixes in the yard. Or let's say you go, they have Leyline, I go turn 2, Stern Dismissal, Dark Ritual, Buried Alive, then that's the ideal draw, right? Abrade's good against small creatures and Chalice of the Void. Same with Cast Into the Fire. I don't really know how I want to split these two. If I want to go double Abrade so I can kill more, let's say, Archons or Flip Delvers, or I want to go Cast Into the Fire and be better against small green critters and Bowmasters, plus token, I guess. And then as the last card, I have Molten Collapse. Molten Collapse is a cool card that is mainly there to kill big creatures like Murktide Regent, and also being able to kill Chalice of the Void. It's also pretty cool. It can kill Planeswalkers, stuff like Teferi, Narset, or whatever. That would also be great. So yeah, definitely looking forward to play this deck as well. And for the last deck, my deck C, I have Temur Rhinos. Temur Rhinos is a deck I'm especially fond about because I used it to qualify for the mocks, the 24-player mocks last spring. Back then, the deck looked a bit differently. It didn't have Wasteland in it. That's kind of new. But other than that, mostly the same things. The deck is looking to accelerate out Violent Outburst or Shardless Agent, cascading into Crashing Footfalls, which will give you 2 4/4s that you can back up by free disruption and hopefully win the game. 4 Force of Will for force negations, a little bit of protection against opposing Force of Wills, and then some role players as speed bumps and or tempo plays, with a couple of Minsc Boos on top to make it to 10 win conditions total in the main deck, if we are counting the 8 Cascade cards plus double Minsc Boo. Sideboard is pretty spicy. Let's go from the bottom here. Endurance against Graveyard and Delver. We have Vigor against Ancient Tomb decks, I would say. Then I have Fury against small creatures, Blood Moon against greedy mana bases, and Merit Lage strategies. Mystical Dispute upgrades the blue matchups, and then I have this one, Inevitable Betrayal. 3 mana suspend card. I don't plan on suspending this card. I plan on cascading into this card, and I plan on pitching this card to Force of Will. So it's basically a 3 mana bribery combined with your Cascade cards. So I'll bring that in against any deck with big creatures like Eldrazi, like Reanimator, Sneak and Show, stuff like that. So Inevitable Betrayal, definitely a cool one you should watch out for. And when I do that, I obviously trim all the Rhinos to make sure I hit this card when I want it. And I play 2 copies because if you natural draw 1 copy, it's not the end of the world. You can still get like an Atrax or a Gristle Brain out of the opponent's deck. If you natural draw 2, however, you need to find another way to win, like Attack with Endurance or Brazen Borrow. But we'll get to that later. Okay, I think that does it for the 3 deck techs. Thank you so much for joining me here today. Make sure to check out the Legacy Gambit's point of view on things on their channel. And yeah, let's get into the matches. All right, we're here for the first round of the 3-match series against Legacy Gambit. My deck A is Yorion Scam, Yorion Grief, and we're on the draw. Opponent started with a mulligan, and I like my hand. This hand can negate some stupid stuff out the gates, and has some lands. Yeah, it's fine. So I don't know the order of my opponent's decks, but I know that the metagame is consisting of Cloudpost, Initiative, and Dimir Shadow. So, yeah, let's see what the matchup is. So for this matchup, it's like a 1 1/3 chance to guess it. Next one, it's 50-50. And the last one, we will know for sure. Forest Pass. So we're up against the Cloudpost deck. Anime Dead, not the best draw. I didn't exactly dream about that when I woke up this morning. But if I now draw an Entomb, I have some pretty good stuff going. So this hand is all about the potential. It doesn't do anything, let's say, off the bat. I think I'll go and find a Watery Grave here. Draw step yields Wasteland. I think I'm supposed to just Wasteland right away. And then I have days against crop rotation. Okay, that didn't happen. Wasteland is a pretty good tool against that deck. Also, if my opponent goes Green Sun Zenith for Proclaimer, I have a removal spell. So with this pace of the game, that's what I like. That's what I want to see in the matchup, right? But I need to find something to actually capitalize on this pace of the game. Otherwise, I'm just going to lose slowly but surely to like uncounterable Primeval Titan late in the game. Third, Basic Forest. Oh boy. The One Ring. Yeah, this is a great spot for me. I can hardcast Daze against a play my opponent invested a Spirit Guide in. The One Ring, that's a card that'll just run away with the game if left unanswered. Let's see if the opponent has one more Spirit Guide. They don't. That's very great for me, because if they did, I would have to force. Thoughtseize is a good one. I mean, Thoughtseize can potentially win the game with enemy dead. Let's see. The opponent's hand has one more ring. It sure had a nice ring to it. So Cavern of Souls and Glacial Chasm, the last two remaining cards, so I'm obviously super favored from here, but stranger things have happened. I want to draw Entomb. I want to draw Troll. Cloud Post the draw from the opponent. I know that Thoughtseize isn't doing anything. Put Yorion into hand. I hope I don't have to get desperate here and Thoughtseize myself. I am going to Thoughtseize my opponent next turn, however, because then they will have 5 mana. So if they draw exactly Primeval Titan, this draw step, and then I'll land next draw step, I could lose, so I don't want that. Okay, Entomb is awesome here. So I go Thoughtseize my opponent. Entomb Archon, because it's a non-legendary. Opponent's Caracas makes Atraxa a bad choice. Archon hits the field. Opponent has to discard a card, which will be the Glacial Chasm. Cavern of Souls is sandbagged. So Primeval Titan off the top of my opponent's deck right now could potentially make for a game. I'm saying potentially. Don't really know. I think this is my opponent's one draw to find it. Force of Will does not help me. Let's see, Glacial Chasm. Prevent all damage, yeah, but it's still gonna attack our opponent. I'm excited to see if they find a good reason to keep the Glacial Chasm over Cavern. I just can't. I can't see it. They do. Okay. Well, let's see if I'm the smartest one or they are. So Glacial Chasm. So that means, let's see if there's anything worth countering here. 2 mana. Okay, I'll just have to wait and see what they do. Enter sack a land. Creature you control can't attack. Prevent all damage, but I still attack and kind of crush their hand here. I I'm trying to think if I force this, they're left on 5 lands. They have to sacrifice a land to stay protected from damage, but I'll still make them lose life. If I draw a land, I have a hard cast force. If I draw a blue card, I have force. Yeah, I'm not sure my opponent gave themselves the best chance to win. Maybe I'm missing something. I'll happily learn that I missed something. Reanimate is not a blue card. The opponent loses 3 life. I draw a card. Grief is not a blue card either. I wonder if something bad can happen here. So if I can't edict myself, it's each opponent. I was about to say if I edict myself and reanimate, I get 1 more stab at it. So I would have done that. I think I pass for the reason that if my opponent plays a creature, I want to end step Sheldred's Edict. And then I want to give myself a chance to draw land, so I have Hardcast Force of Will. So I want to use my mana in that situation. My opponent's going to lose how much life now? Just 2? The opponent bought some time here. But it's a huge problem that they have to pass here. Now they're going to lose the card to the Archon attack. Opponent loses 3 life. Discards a card. That was Ulamog. That's funny. I'm wondering if I should even reanimate that Ulamog. Is that even going to help me, like, clockwise? But I'm trying to think what my opponent can do from 4 lands that has any impact in this game. I just realized the Ulamog is a legendary. But, oh my god. Okay, so I just gave my opponent a free card here, which is super funny. For some reason, I thought of this as a non-legendary. I have no idea why. Oh, that's terrible. It's thankfully it worked, but oh my god. So sideboarding against this deck can be tricky. I think that this deck will have Reclaimer in it. I'm curious what kind of graveyard hate my opponent will bring to the table. I think I'm bringing out Atraxa. So Force of Negating a Needle is definitely a play. Bowmasters, is that even good against the ring? I'm trying to think. My opponent resolves the 1 ring. I think I'm in pretty big trouble. I'm not sure Bowmasters does the trick in that case. I kind of have to hope my opponent doesn't go over the top. So I need a lot of cards to basically make sure that doesn't happen. Ulamog is indestructible, but Go for the Throat is still better than Sheldred's Edict, I think. A card like Brazen Borrower is not very exciting. It does pitch to Force of Will. Okay. Tough match, I think. I think this is a tough matchup. I think I got pretty lucky there. Even playing with House Money in the end with the Ulamog reanimation. So if they bounce that back with Caracas, I have 1 more card to work with on the following turn. So because I didn't play that well, I would have to seize away the Ulamog once again. That's actually funny. Yeah, does Bowmaster help me close out the game clockwise? I mean, it's not terrible. I like the Surgicals to try and get rid of all their cloud posts for good. I like Force of Negation countering maps and rings and stuff. I'm wondering if the Bowmasters are a good hedge or not. I'll try like this. Double go for the throat, double Bowmaster. I'm not really confident in this sideboarding, to be honest. Let's see. Alright, up a game here versus Cloudpost. And I have a cool opening hand with some options available to me. I have Grief, Pitch, Force, and Daze. That is a lot of things to hopefully get to the game to a similar state as last time, where my opponent was stuck on like 4 or 5 mana, and I was able to, close the door in the meantime while they were sitting there. Opponents keep 7 cards. I'm also quite excited to see how much my opponent respects the graveyard plan of my deck. Like, are they going for heavy endurance? Like, where are we at? I really want to see that. Murktide Regent. So I'm going to play land. Do I ponder first? Yeah, I think pondering first is a good idea. That reanimate is going to be sick. So I think that ponders my force pitch in case I get there. So I agree with my opponent here. I think it's good. Then I have reanimate coming. Next turn, I have a couple of backup spells. I like this. If I found like a bad black card, or a black card I don't need off the ponder, I could have put that on top, pitched that to grief, and then had the surgical in the bank. So let's see what my opponent's working with. Okay. A lot of the usual suspects. So let's see here. I think I'm supposed to take this Once Upon a Time. I think if I was the opponent, I would have fired off this Once Upon a Time to kind of get you into green mana. Yeah, I'm really not too sharp today. I have a reanimate on top of my deck, and I could have taken their Titan. Yeah, this is not strong. I was supposed to do that. Magic is a tough game. So I'll ponder, reanimate. Do I want any of these cards? Is the surgical even good? I don't think so. I'll just shuffle here. Then I'll go reanimate the grief. I could have reanimated a Titan. But it is what it is. We try and move on here. I think that would have been better, but I mean, obviously, disruption is also strong. There's a Cavern of Souls, which is a problem. So now I'm going to take the Titan, because I can counter a Green Suns. I can't counter Primeval Titan cast out of Outpost. So what I really want here is to daze a spell, force a spell, probably just daze. I mean, I would daze anything here to just put a card in my yard. And if I don't, I want to ponder into land, or just draw the land, I guess. Yeah, let's cast Ponder Murktide. Animate Dead. Is that better? Most likely is, right? So no shuffling. I play Animate Dead on the opponent's Primeval Titan. Get to search up a few lands. No surprises there, but that's going to be double Wasteland. Attack for 3. Pass the turn with Force and Daze with double Wasteland. So that means if my opponent plays Needle, I will force it. And then I'll hopefully double Wasteland for the game. Yeah, I'm sad I didn't find this line earlier on. It would have been a bit cooler to actually play this game out in a great fashion. Opponent's gaining 4 life here. I will also force a will a 1 ring if that's the case. I think my opponent's hand is something like Zenith, Cavern, 2 unknowns maybe? Let's get in for 8. I get to search up 2 more Wastelands, which is funny. Wasteland Cloud Post, that's the one that gives the most mana. Let's see, I have 4 instants in the yard, so I can tap out for this Murky. I still have Force Days. My opponent's at 2 mana, so yeah, pretty smooth sailing here. And I think it's a good showcase of how to beat that deck. Look, I didn't play this game very well, but I kind of showcased how you are able to do it if your cards are good. Like you get under it with Wasteland with speed, and you manage to slam the door before they recover. Okay, that was it for the first round matchup. Next up, I will have, let me quick check here. Next up, I'll have Phoenix, and I'm going to be facing off against either Boris Initiative or Demir's Shadow. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and don't go anywhere. Hey, here we are for the second Legacy matchup of the day. I'm playing against the Legacy Gambit. I was lucky to take down the first match with my blue-black 80 cards Yorion deck versus their Outpost deck. And here we are with Rix's Phoenix, featuring Delver and Dragon Race's Channeler, so it's more like a secondary way to win the game, I would say. I'm on the draw, put a mulligan to 6. So I know the remaining decks are Red-White Initiative and Death Shadow. And my hand is totally reasonable against Shadow. Not the best against Initiative, but that's the nature of the beast here. I don't know the matchup, but there's a 50-50 chance. I guess with my opponent mulliganing, that tilts it a slight bit in the favor of being Initiative, but I mean, that's very small. I just don't see mulliganing a hand like this. Obviously, if I get chaliced, the game's just over. So, funny thing is, for them, Chalice of the Void on 1 is a completely dead card against Rhinos. And Chalice of the Void for 1 is brutal and unbeatable against Phoenix. So, maybe we see some high rolling here. If our opponent is in fact on initiative, there's a lot of like sequencing, deciding what to bottom. That's a 1 in 7 decision. And then maybe there's some sequencing around Force of Will that's complicated. Okay, opponent goes turn 1 Fable. I can't say I love that, but we take that. Thoughtseize is a good draw. So if I Thoughtseize now, I hopefully take... I actually think I'm supposed to develop a threat instead. I can go... Volcanic Island Delver. Next turn, Chandler Thoughtseize. think that's okay. So my opponents, they don't know. They know my archetype. They don't know that I'm playing Delver and Channelers in the Phoenix deck. So if they prepared for some like stock list that recently did well, maybe this can throw them off a bit. But let's see about that. When I can filter their hand a bit here. Also, I don't have a Bird Alive, I don't have a Ritual, so I'm pretty far away from playing a Phoenix game plan. That's why I ultimately ended up with the 8 1-drops. The ace, just sometimes that's enough to win games, right? It's very likely our opponent has some kind of situation where they want to end up with 1 mana source, but they don't want to end up with too many, right? Also, they know they're going to kill their own mana base with City of Traders, most likely. So this could be a lot of... so even though a card like Fable offers consistency and like durability on the mana, it can still be quite tricky here, especially if my opponent doesn't have a cavern and have to like cross fingers, hope for the best, play a 4-drop into Daze. It can be tricky. Opponents taking their time here on the discard, as they should. They keep their whole hand floating 2 mana. Yeah, the Chalice of the Void is just game over for this deck. I mean, I can't do anything aside from this. The Chalice got countered. When it attacks, gets a treasure. Yeah, I'm pretty scared about this. I did get to daze something frightening, but my opponent is keeping their mana around. Okay, so great sequencing here from the opponent. Let's see what they follow up with. Yeah, Archon is awesome here. Archon is very close to unbeatable. I would have to draw a Lightning Bolt very, very soon to stay in this game. Can't do that. Delver doesn't flip. I draw another Delver. Yeah, Archon is game over. I need a Lightning Bolt on top of my deck like right now, and I need my opponent to not follow this up with anything meaningful. If that happens, I'm kind of in the game, but oof, very tough. Very tough opening here. Difference between play and draw is something the initiative deck does a very good job of utilizing, or showcasing, I guess. Hopefully we can return the favor game 2 and then dodge disaster for the last game. If you're on the draw against initiative, you don't have a force of will. I think you're pretty firmly behind, I would say. Let's say I have a force of will for the Fable, then my opponent has to play a bit off curve, kill their own mana base, not have like mana, and then I can hopefully run away with the game with the 1-drops. But the flip scenario of that is just getting absolutely annihilated here. I will concede this game, go to sideboarding. Great showcase of the Archon of Emeria. That card is super strong. So let's see what we can do about that particular deck. So I have a lot of good cards. I'm very tempted to just run it back, but probably shouldn't. I could sideboard in like 2 answers for Chalice, maybe 3. Yeah, 3 is probably the way to go. And then trim some stuff. Let's see, what's What's something you can trim here? What if I decide the whole Phoenix package is not strong against initiative? Is that viable at all? That's 12 cards. These are playable. This is playable. This is playable. Yeah, I don't have enough cards to do the whole crazy sideboard plan, but I think cutting like a Preordain and a Phoenix, I like that. Maybe cut like one Thoughtseize. That leaves me with Thoughtseize, Daze, and the Forces that I need in my opening hand to keep, basically. Or Fast Phoenix, I guess. Nah, I think I need a piece of disruption in my opener. So maybe cut like a Channeler. Does that sound right? Yeah, I think I can cut a Channeler. Okay, I'll submit this. This is cool. I think I need like the broken aspect of Ritual Bird Alive Phoenix, but I'm not confident at all. That's the beauty of it. Leaving Fatal Push in my sideboard also feels a bit. Ugh. I have a Parade and Molten Collapse for Chalice, and they can also just take care of a creature. So here, the knowledge of from my opponent, like they know I'm on Phoenix, which in a normal tournament my opponent wouldn't know I'm on Phoenix because I just played some Delver cards and conceded the game. So this is strength of this deck in an open field and a pretty big disadvantage here, because I could just get crushed by, let's say, Leyline or Surgical. I guess not Surgical out of a Chalice for one deck, but you know what I mean, like Ferromacabre, stuff like that. I'll keep this hand. I have the turn 1 Thoughtseize. Basically, I'm looking for in my opening hand to have some piece of disruption and some lands to be functional. And this kind of does the trick. So I think what I want to do, it's also, I have to think about the lands here. If I go turn 1 Badlands, I can ignore Archon, but because then I have a red mana already on board, then I kill the Archon, then I can play on, which would be cool. If I go for Underground Sea, I can still play out Delver and a tap Volcanic Island, and then kill the Archon the following turn. If my opponent does not have Archon, then what do they have? I think I like the Badlands line because I think it's very, very likely I'll want to Lightning Bolt next turn cycle. This is kind of complicated. So I get punished if I need double blue. I get rewarded if I need red off the bat, especially in the face of Archon. But then again, if my opponent has something like Fable, I also want to kill that. Same with Caves of Chaos Adventurer. So I think the way I get punished here is my opponent has a hand of Chalice of the Void that I need to take, and then present a threat that doesn't die to bolt, which is the Dungeoneer. So I think those are my thoughts about this. And I think I value having the red right away to ignore Archon more. And for that, I need black now for Thoughtseize and red mana attached. Thoughtseizing the opponent, taking pretty easy Chalice of the Void here. Our opponent has the ability to play cards from the top of their deck. They have 3 mana turn 1, which is always scary. But with my hand, I think I have all of those 3 drops covered with the Lightning Bolt. Plateau. Play out the pedal. Okay, I was scared for a second it was a Chalice of the Void. So the scenario that I talked about was like the downside of this happened, so now I need to choose between Delver of Secrets and Preordain, and I'm gonna go for a Delver here. I think that's the better card in this spot. Let's go for Underground Sea, cast Delver, and what do I get punished by here? Again, I think it's the 3/4 initiative creature that's dangerous. I'm not scared of 5/3, unless my opponent specifically went white card into... Okay, the opponent unfortunately did what I didn't want them to do, except they don't have the white card to pitch Solitude, so if I'm lucky to flip this Delver, I can get into some sort of a race. Yeah, this is super scary. Opponent even has a Solitude in hand. They can hardcast that Solitude next turn. Yeah, the Dungeoneer was the big one. Reveal Brainstorm, love that, obviously. So what I can do here is I can Brainstorm, get in the free shuffle, getting the initiative. It's pretty minor when I already have a fetch, but we take that. Brainstorm, and that is double Lightning Bolt, which is pretty cool. So what is it I don't want here? I might not want... Do I want second Delver? So I get rid of Volcanic and Delver, is that it? No, I think I want that Delver to be able to... I want the Delver to be able to block that Solitude, because my opponent's counterplay is now going to be kill my Delver, present a threat, and I want to, you know, keep the initiative for obvious reasons. So I think doing this is correct. Fetch Volcanic Island, double bolt the Dungeoneer, before my opponent finds something like the Blink spell I can't remember the name of. So I have a blocker and a cantrip in hand. And I get to search of an island. I actually forgot about that I play a basic. That could be helpful. Later on for Brainstorm or casting more spells. Now I can even hardcast a Phoenix. Yeah, this is not terrible. We take this spot. Also, I'm scrying on my next upkeep unless my opponent finds a sweet initiative creature. Yeah, this is... Finding the second bolt kept me in this game. I'm excited to see if it's enough. Maybe the opponent's going to play out another city here. City, petal. Yeah, I think this is a hardcast Solitude around around days. Good play from the opponent. Or Will would have just iced the game, I would say. But the opponent lives to see another day. 2 cards in hand, one being basic planes, one being unknown. A card I'm looking for is Lightning Bolt. Another card I'm looking for is just, you know, more creatures, I guess. A card like Bird Alive wouldn't be bad either. I think that can lead to good stuff down the road. Let's see if we can scry together some good things. Lightning Bolt, that's a good one. So do I want this Delver? I can go Lightning Bolt, ponder double Delver. Is that correct? I think it is. So I take the Lightning Bolt. I play ponder double Delver. Keep up Okay, is this daze any good? Wonder double Delver. So I'm gonna flip both of my Delvers. I already have the first bolt. I think I want the second as well. So I go like this. Delver. Delver, lightning bolt. A lightning bolt now, again, because of what's it called? 3 mana enchantment, has channel, can blink a creature. Yeah, I forgot about that name, but that's like the reason for it. I think the opponent needs to draw something like Dungeoneer very fast. And I think that is now. I'm trying to think if the Dungeoneer beats me. If my opponent plays Dungeoneer, they make it into a 5/6. And next turn, attack for 5 or 6 plus trapping. I'm actually not sure. Floating red, I guess, is good for me. Opponents killing off their own mana base here. So I get a mana, and I flip both Delvers with the 4th Lightning Bolt. Is that it? I think so. So now I Lightning Bolt the Spirit Guide and just continue my path to victory. It's going to be a problem being on the draw for game 3, though. I really don't like this matchup on the draw. Also, between Chalice and Archon, it's so hard to stitch together the Phoenix combo. But I still think I want it, because it's also a way to like raise the initiative if my opponent has a beefy draw with like Dungeoneer. Okay, so far so good. So on the draw, 1-mana cantrips aren't the best. 1-mana creatures aren't the best either. But they can still do the job as we just witnessed. Kind of sad I don't have more than 1 Force of Negation for turn 1 counterplay. So I think it's okay to cut a Thoughtseize for either Cast into the Fire or Brazen. Probably Brazen. Blue cards, deals with some of the same stuff. What about a card like Fatal Push? Is Fatal Push better than a Channeler? Very unclear to me. Maybe the interaction is strong. Let's say we have a Dungeoneer standoff, then this card is immaculate. So now I have like 2.5 answers for Chalice in play, 5 answers for Chalice on the stack, and a couple of discard spells if my opponent has land pass. I think this setup is okay, but yeah, I don't like the matchup on the draw. I think maybe it's like 60-40 matchup depending on the die roll. I think that's like reasonable number. I feel pretty confident when I play first that I'm going to have either a Thoughtseize, a Force of Will, or a Daze. Maybe one of these answers. Combined with, look, if I combine it with some Ritual Bird live action, I really like my spot. If I combine it with a few 1-drop creatures, then I can even fight for the initiative. Stuff like that. Yeah, that game Brainstorm was a huge draw, flipping the Delver, because got an extra card off the initiative. Like I got my shuffle in, I filtered my hand. Yeah, that was pretty good. I'm excited to see if I can get some Phoenixes to enter the battlefield this game, but yeah, you never know. Turn 1 Chalice, turn 1 Archon, turn 1 Fable. That's what I'm scared of, right? Fable can be dealt with by Lightning Bolt. Yeah. I was happy for a second when I saw the Force of Will, but yeah, this is just not gonna cut it. I have to mulligan. With one land, obviously, it's an easy keep. I get to force their first good thing. I get to play a creature. Yeah, we have to keep this. This could be a very one-sided game. I don't have an answer for Chalice. I'm very soft to turn 1 initiative creature. I can hope that my opponent is kind of, I don't want to say overthinking, but that my opponent decides that playing the next best threat out, which could be something like Fable, is a good idea, because I'm very likely to have a Force of Will. Also, I can hope my opponent's mana base kind of depletes itself. But yeah, let's see. Petal, the first player from the opponent. Plateau, I don't hate that. Oh, I do hate what's coming here. The Chalice of the Void. That resolves, and I don't like it. So I have 3 answers for that card in my deck. And it's going to be very tough to win without it. So one argument here is I have turn 4 Phoenixes if nothing else happens. Because I go turn 3 Bird Alive and then I cast 3 spells into the Abyss. Like, that's like the worst I can do. But that doesn't really work against what my opponent's got going on here. Uncounterable initiative creature. Magus. That's okay. Yeah, I can't say I like that from my opponent. But in combination with the Chalice, it's obviously insane. So do I want to thin my deck? I think I do. So this puts me at 1 answer for the Chalice. That's funny. Oh, I guess Brazen as well. Okay. Magus of the Moon, all in. So I have some turns to come up with Brazen or the Abrade. Yeah, this could just be a none game over very quickly. I'm surprised by the Magus. My philosophy around that statement is, if you manage to stick a Chalice of the Void against this deck, you're doing very well. But Magus without the Chalice, it's not anything reliable, I would say. But yeah, if I draw the Molten Collapse, I'm going to be very sad. Because that's actually a scenario where the Molten Collapse does not answer Chalice of the Void, where a card like Abrade would. Opponent with the basic planes. Opponent knows I have the island, since I decided to fetch Volcanic Island in response to the Magus. In no place, thanks to the Chalice. Yeah, this is a race against... I mean, my opponent needs to find 4 mana sources and a threat number 2 to ice this game. Maybe they want to play around days, so they want to wait until the 5th mana source. I guess that's kind of my out at this point. But my opponent's going to respect the counter magic drawn after Magus. I guess not. Here's the 4 mana in the mana pool that I didn't want to see. Chalice for 2. That actually locks me out of the game. I'll just check my list real quick. So I have Brazen Borrower, and I have a Braid. I did not bring in anything else. Yeah, that'll do it. GG's. Initiative took down Grixis Phoenix off the back of a cheesy Chalice of Wood for 1, Magus of the Moon 1-2 punch. That's how it is sometimes. This deck is very weak to Chalice, and if you throw away my ability to actually kill the Chalice, that's game over. Alright, that's it for the second match. I'll be back for the third one, which will be Rhinos versus Shadow on their part. See you then. Okay, here we are for the third round of the battle against the Legacy Gambit. Score is currently 1-1, and we have narrowed it down to our very last matchup of this showdown. I'm playing Teamer Rhinos, and I'm up against Dimir Death Shadow. I've found a great opening hand here. I have turn 2 Shardless Agent into Rhinos with Force of Will backup, so I'm gonna keep that. That's part of what the deck is trying to do. I even have some lands that stays in play, so I can draw more Cascade cards later to hopefully pile on or give them a second wave. What I'm scared of here is my opponent going turn 1 Thoughtseize. I Force a Will it, and then I get dazed on the agent. There's also something to be said about the card Grief doing exactly the same, which is nasty. So I think my opponent has reasonable tools to not just die a quick death. My first draw step can definitely help me out. Let's say it's a Spirit Guide, then I have Days covered. Let's say it's one more Cascade spell, Shardless Agent, or Violent Outburst, then I kind of have a 1-2 punch going. If it's a blue card, like worse blue card, then I can keep the Fire Ice to tap down a Shadow later. Yeah, I guess I'm just hoping it's not a land on top of my deck. Even a card like Minsk and Boo would be acceptable. Opponents on the Molded 6 here, most likely looking for a combination of cards that I talked about. I'm not going to respect Stifle here. I'm very cognizant of the fact that I could get got by Stifle, but I don't want to get wastelanded and my opponent will get, more turns to do their thing. Watery Grave, Shock, pass. So no Thoughtseize and no Grief. I draw that card. So if I get Stifled, I don't have if I get Stifled, I just don't have blue mana, right? So so let's see here. Volcanic Island pairs the best with the forest in my hand. The Simian Spirit Guide is the worst of the bunch, and I play Shardless Agent. I could see my opponent having something like Daze or Stubborn Denial, which I'm kind of hoping for because this Spirit Guide just covers it so nicely. This could be Daze. Okay. I'll exile Spirit Guide and pay. I'm not going to counter the Brainstorm. It's okay for my opponent to get some more looks. If I don't have to Force a Will, I'm also pretty happy. I'm not really sure what Dimir Shadow is running these days. I would say my opponent's only way to interact here is Force a Will, and it's very unlikely they found 2. Pay for that. Ask if I can have my 10 power in play. Okay, that resolves. I'm super happy about that because Then I still have the Fire Ice in case of like a big shadow. I'm trying to figure out if I fight over land Fatal Push. When it goes to 16. Snuff Out. It's kind of the same thing. I'll try and force a will here. If I get dazed, it's unfortunate. If I don't, I like my chances. The opponent did a good job of... Okay, Snuff Out down to 8. So now my opponent stabilizes with a Shadow with double Snuff Out. That's an awesome draw. Like, that's a perfect showcase of that deck. Double Snuff Out with the Shadow. Okay. I mean, I do like that. Get my opponent to 2 life. Yeah, I'll try to thread the needle here. I get my opponent to 2 life. Not even convinced this is a game-winning move, but let's see. There's an argument that I should have let my opponent like make some more life loss and then try and get them with the ice. I'm really not sure. Opponents at 2 life are like Fatal Push would totally crush me. I'm not scared about Wasteland. I'm scared about Fatal Push specifically. And it's unclear if I'm willing to respect that card. Opponent will also get me with another Shadow. So Fatal Push, probably like a 3-up or something in that deck. And we'll see the Shadow in case they have it. So I kind of have to decide if everything plays out how I think it will. If I'm willing to play around Fatal Push. Because my opponent has the Fatal Push. I think I lose the game on the spot. My opponent doesn't have the Fatal Push. I think I win on the spot. The opponent obviously... Yeah. There's even something like Sheldred's Edict in the mix now. Yeah, I'm gonna attack here. This is a big gamble. That's gonna result in a loss for one of us. Oh, even Bowmasters. Beautiful. Yeah, that works. That works. Okay. Orcish Bowmasters, 2 blockers. Yeah, I don't like how I played here. I kind of blanked on the Bowmasters. That's like the biggest punishment for not being sharp here. That's most likely a game loss here. Okay. Yeah, that's not smart. Getting Bowmastered for the block on the non-trampler. Shadow blocks the Rhino. And then I'm kind of in a bad position. So what if I don't attack there? Then my opponent goes, instead Bowmasters can't attack because of trample, and then we sit here, but my Rhino is ticking down. I have the mana in play to cascade again, in case I find one. Yeah, that's interesting. It's interesting whether checking... The fact that Bowmasters was 4 cards on top of the other cards I talked about, that's huge. That's a really big problem. I think I like Yeah, I don't really like force negations in matchup like this. I do like Blood Moon as a 3-mana, oftentimes win the game. It's unclear if I like Minskin Boo or Endurance the most. The thing about Endurance is it only stops like Murktides somewhat proactively, where Minskin Boo is the faster way to close out a game. Blood Moon. I'm pretty confident I can just trim a Brazen Borrower and be happy. I play a couple of Disputes, but in reality, Dispute is not the best against Daze, because if you end up like that, counter magic is just more likely to make Daze alive. So Dispute is good against Force a Will Draw specifically. Yeah, it's not the best. Couple of Endurances. Endurance isn't all that great if my opponent ever sees a Death Shadow. That's the spots where cards like Brazen and Fire Ice can do some tempo work. Yeah. Yeah, this is a tough matchup between all the counters, all the discard, the actual hard removal. So it's not Lightning Bolt that can't kill a Rhino, it's actual removal that kills a Rhino. Yeah, can't stop thinking about that game 1. So obviously, in the moment, I don't think about Bowmasters. But if I thought about Bowmasters, what would I do? That's actually pretty interesting. Does the draw go game favor me from there? Very unclear. Opponent can't attack. The trample on the Rhino is huge there, because that means the block from my opponent is not reliable. Great situation. I didn't play it with full info, but you can still try and evaluate a bit about it. Okay, this hand is not the best, but I mean, I think it's a keep. Actually, the thing that I just noticed is I have 2 Cascade cards and 2 Footfalls, but I only have 1 Rhino card left in my deck. Yeah, this is gonna be tough. I'm gonna be on the suspend plan and try and win that way. I can't recommend that. I generally don't like mulliganing against discard decks, so my hand would need to be pretty close to just unplayable if I want to mulligan. I think this is okay. This is good against soft counters, non-death shadow draws. It's decent against discard, I would say. Opponent is weighing their options here. Sometimes the Rhino deck can just go turn 1 Rhinos, destroy you. I'm curious how much my opponents are respecting that fact. That's part of the strength of the deck, I would say. So within any given match, you can just like blow your opponent out game 1, and then they're gonna be too scared for game 2, and then it's just over because you had a more, let's say, well-rounded game plan, like turn 3 Cascade with a force backup, turn 4 another Cascader or Minskin Boo, stuff like that. And then your opponent is just too low on cards to actually win a fair game, so to speak. I think I'm gonna go fetch up basic forest here. 1, because of Wasteland in my opponent's deck, and 2, because of Blood Moon in my deck. And I think by doing like this, I can only like if I need to draw land to move on here. But the Violent Outburst is uncastable if I draw, let's see, Tropical Island or Spirit Guide, where everything else will cast the Outburst, and if that fails, I can just Shardless Agent, and as I said, I only have 1 Rhino left in the deck, so... This outburst is mainly a dead card, I would say. Unless I draw something specific like red land, Force of Will, and need a pitch. Then I'll need to pitch the agent, cast the outburst. I'm curious what my opponent's going to do here, because it's very likely that taking this Crashing Footfalls is the right play. Opponent takes the Shardless Agent, which potentially strands a dead card in my hand if I don't see a red source. Suspend counter off the Rhino. I think my best draw is something like Wasteland. But that also works. I can disguise the fact that I just drew a red source. I'm curious how I play this outburst, because this could easily be one of those games where the Mystical Dispute is not really a backup spell. I think I'm supposed to Mystical Dispute here, even though my opponent knows about this card. It's a good way for the opponent to get that card out of my hand. But since they played with that timing, I think it's a good resolve. The counter argument is it's very easy for that deck to find more like Thoughtseize, Grief, etc., and just get rid of the dispute. Yeah. Yeah, this could be a tough game. Also, now I leave myself with the option to draw a Blood Moon. Winner with a Wasteland there, so our mana base is definitely helping us out. If I draw a Spirit Guide, I go for it, obviously. If I don't, then I think I'm supposed to wait. Let's get some counters off of those big boys. Wasteland is the draw. I think I'm supposed to Wasteland my opponent here. The alternative is playing Wooded. No, I think it's good to Wasteland my opponent. Because if I can, like, if the game goes by, it's like time walks towards the Rhinos, which does favor me. I'm also trying to keep my opponent off something like Murktide Regent or some other stuff. Basically being able to... Ooh. Yeah, this is not good for the opponent. Spirit Guide? Blood Moon. Okay, so let me think about this. I think what I'm supposed to do here is... Okay, that's actually super thick. Because if I fetch, I can get Wastelanded, and I don't get to do anything. I think I'll just pass. My opponent draws a land, then am I going to be sad? I mean, I could... No, this is good. This is good. I like passing. Too much bad stuff can happen here if I just jam into a Force of Will. Obviously, the opponent's stuck here. That's not ideal, to say the least. So now I have a Rhino coming. I do intend to fight over it with Dispute. My opponent most likely needs to force twice here to not just lose. But I mean, that's what I thought the last time, so... Rhino's Resolve. Draw a Bad Endurance. If I'm lucky, I win this game without showing the Blood Moon. Opponent drew a Swamp. What is that Swamp gonna do? Actually, that's annoying with my plan. That's awesome. Thoughtseize targeting me. So now my opponent's gonna know what's up, which is the Blood Moon. Yeah, my hand is stuck with 3 mana spells. I'm really looking to draw land number 4, and I guess that doesn't even matter. Now I can just jam some spells. Yeah, land number 4 doesn't matter when my opponent can't cast the Daze. Okay. I just assume the Blood Moon is a must counter. So let's... Oh, okay, I have a Rhinos coming. Okay, yeah, this is... I actually forgot about those for a second. So yeah, now it's just impossible for the opponent to do anything. Get in for 4, opponent's at 7. So if I play a must counter here, I think Blood Moon is a must counter. Another play I had up my sleeve was icing on upkeep, but I don't think it's going to be relevant here. Opponent wastelands me in response. So basic Swamp is actually surprising out of that deck. So now we know that the brainstorm early on was kind of a desperation brainstorm. But at the time, it just seemed like with the information they had available, that it would be very questionable to play that into the dispute and not, you know, liking the outcome, so to speak. But there's some leveling stuff there for sure. So now my opponent knows about the Blood Moon, but I think it's way less likely to get there on the draw. So maybe just a Minsk and a Brazen Borrow in its place. Yeah, I think this is another 60-40 matchup, depending on the die roll. They did a great job threading the needle game 1. And now we're here, game 3 on the draw. The conclusion of the battle here against the Legacy Gambit. Yeah, I mean, we keep this and we're ready to lose to some Turbo Shadow stuff. Opponent has taken a few mulligans. I have 3 lands here, including the Lauren revealed. I have double Cascader. My mana base is not wasteland proof like last time, but this could be a case where if the opponent wastelands, it might not be in their favor, right? I'm also looking to use my wasteland as potential game winning down the line. So I intend on leading on Trop. Then searching up Volcanic. And then see what's gonna happen from there. Thoughtseize resolves. The opponent sees what might be the bad news, who knows? So here, if my opponent takes Lauren revealed, it's tough play for me to make to Wasteland. Because then I'm left with just 1 Trop. Opponent takes Shardless Agent. That does make things a bit easier for me, I would say. This was a somewhat long... I'm thinking like Surgical, maybe. Could that be it? Do I want to kill my opponent's land? I don't think so. I want to play towards my own plan here. I drew the Fire Ice to kind of bridge turn 2 to 3. Resolves. No mystical dispute this time around. So hopefully our opponent gets into the game rather than just lose to a single wasteland. That would be very anticlimactic. I want to get into a grind fest here. Because I actually think, despite my opponent mulliganing to 5, that they have a decent shot this game if they can cast spells. My plan is, as I said, to go get Volcanic Island, play that out, tap down one of my opponent's lands with Fire Ice. Okay. Okay, so we kind of have an interesting game here. I think I'm on the same plan, which is go get Volcanic and just play normal games, normal Magic. If I draw a land, that can change things. But I think playing the Wasteland out here and passing is my route to victory. I really don't like trying to get lucky here on the Wasteland. Let's see if I get punished. I kind of get punished here if the opponent doesn't have the land. There's Watergrave, so now I feel a bit better. Opponent's going to pass. Going to make this stop on my opponent's next upkeep because I think I'm going to ice there. I wonder if my opponent still has Orcish Bowmasters in their deck. I kind of doubt it. It's not really the best. I'll ice the Underground Sea. The opponent knows about Violent Outburst, Brazen, I think. Yeah, that sounds about right. Okay, so opponent passes back. That's not a bad draw. Let's see. I'll Island Cycle here to get into my Trop. Then I will ice once more. I think that's just how you play this. Icing the Underground Sea to hopefully find another mana source. Yeah, that's great draw. Let's see if the opponent can do anything about that. Brainstorm is a good one here. Maybe they had that Brainstorm for a while and delayed it until the top of their deck was clear. That would be a great play that they're definitely capable to make. Also, I have to think a little bit about the surgical aspect. And what I mean by that is I want to cast Shardless Agent as my first Cascade spell, I would say. Okay, so the opponent draws into 3 spells here, no lands. I like that. I'm not going to complain. Okay, another land is not necessarily what I wanted, but we'll take it. I'll search up Taiga. And then I'm going to go Shardless Agent. So I do know Force of Negation is going to be better here, but I think this is the way to play it. Let's see if I just get negated and look silly. I guess if I get negated, I can't get surgical. It's because it exiles. So a little bit of give and take here. But I like getting the 2 power into play. Okay, Force of Negation it is. Pitching Murktide Regent. The opponent knows about Brazen Burrows, so that's super reasonable. I do get a 2/2 out of the deal. I will Wasteland the Underground Sea. It's like pretty minor. I just don't see the Days Back or Watery Grave for Death Shadow Prophet being relevant this game. I could be wrong, though, which is scary. So the opponent could theoretically have a land here. They put back a land and wanted like all the spells. But let's see. Also, I should think about whether to attack or not in a spot like this. I'm hoping opponent shuffles here, which is strong for me, I think. So now I think I put my opponent in a spot where they need... Wow, what a draw. I need to think about my island count, though. So 1 Trop is gone. I I think I have a volcanic in my deck. Let's check. I played double volcanic, so one trop in the yard. One trop in play. Yeah, so let's go agent. Rhinos. It's going to be tough for the opponent to have... Yeah, they pitched the days. I mean, they could have another, which would be unfortunate, but I should definitely check, because if this works, I think I win the game pretty easily. Did the opponent have a second days after having pitched a Murktide? They sure did. Okay, sick. So opponent has a Watery Grave in hand, so they'll go to 11. That means I'll be attacking, because the Watery Grave can let them play Death Shadow no matter what, so I might as well get closer to the promised land here. So my opponent knows about my whole hand now, I think. Opponent goes to 9. Opponent plays a 4-4. Okay. Oof. I quickly thought about, but I was too late. I wanted to make an upkeep stop, so I didn't natural draw the Rhino. That would have been pretty disastrous, I would say, to natural draw the Rhino here. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm just supposed to... I'm supposed to get in for 3 damage here. I mean... Let's cast Crashing Footfalls. If I get my opponent to 6, I just don't see how they win this game. I have the double Brazen Borrower in hand. I get a couple of Rhinos. I will Island cycle this revealed for basic island, play that out. And I want to get in here for 3 damage. Opponent's at 6, which means 1 agent and 1 Rhino is going to be lethal. So not even Snuff Out. Snuff Out plus Fatal Push will prolong this game. But I think the Brazens are just too much as an evasive threat and, you know, annoying bounce spell. There's the GGs from the opponents, and we managed to take down this battle, showdown, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, this was some good games. I mean, this game, our opponent was on 4 cards and fighting for their life, while I was having, like, decent draws. I even got to make, like, a good wasteland along the game. I kind of prolonged that decision because I needed to be able to play Magic myself, and as turns went by, I learned more about the opponent's situation when they missed land drops, etc., etc. Like the Brainstorm with no fetching, stuff like that made me able to fire off an effective wasteland, and I kind of kept the threats coming while having the 2 Brazens in hand, and ultimately, that's just what sealed it, right? Like resources, I had just had more of them. Yeah, that was a great, that was a cool showing. I hope you guys liked it. I'll definitely try and find some other content creators to challenge in the future, and I hope you guys will keep joining me on my adventure. And yeah, thanks for watching, and see you next time.